this is BakeWithMom.com. Today we're going to make a sponge cake for Mom for Mother's Day. And we'll dress it with some whipped cream and strawberries. Before we get started, we're going to have to prepare our pan so that it's ready for the dough. We're going to take some softened butter, and I'm using some wax paper, and we're going to spread it on the, I have wax paper lining this on the bottom, and we just want to spread it on so that it covers the whole bottom of the pan. And it's okay if you get some onto the bottom of the pan because it'll help the wax paper to stick to it a little bit. We just want to make sure that we cover all the surfaces so that it's easier to get off at the end and get the cake out of the pan. Also, you want to get the sides so it doesn't stick to the sides. And now we're ready to do our mixing. Now the first thing we're going to do is, I have jumbo eggs here. I like to use jumbo because it makes it a fluffier cake. So what we're going to do is separate our eggs. The way you do that, I suggest possibly using a separate bowl because you do not want any egg yolk in with your whites. If you get egg yolk in with your egg whites, then they will not fluff. So we're just making it go back and forth until we've got all the whites in. Drop the whites in a small bowl, or the yolks in the small bowl, the whites in the large. And we want to do this with 6 eggs. Okay, so we've separated our eggs into whites and yolks. We're going to put the whites on the beater first. It's very important that you do whites first because, like I said, if you contaminate the whites with yolk, then they won't whip high. So we're going to get them started. We're going to whip them until they make soft peaks. While they're whipping, we're going to sift our cake flour. If you use regular flour, instead of having a sponge cake, you're going to have a brick cake. So we're going to sift our flour. And we're going to measure 1 cup of cake flour. Notice how the egg whites are getting foamy. So I'm going to get rid of this excess flour. Now I'm going to put our cup of flour back into the sifter. And to that I'm going to add 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda. I like to heat it just a little bit. 1/4 teaspoon of cornstarch. Heat it a little bit again. And then 1/2 teaspoon of cream of tartar. This makes a single acting baking powder that you used to be able to buy mixed already years ago, but you can't anymore. But this makes a really good cake. So we're looking at our egg whites. When they're done, they should make soft peaks. So we want to make soft peaks with our egg whites. When they've come to that point, we're going to turn our mixer on, turn it on at a low speed, I'd say about 3 to 4 on most of your mixers, and we're going to mix in the sugar. You don't want it real high because then your sugar will fly all over the place. So we're going to mix it in gradually. Just add and let it spin around. Add a little more and let it spin. We want it to mix in thoroughly into the egg whites. It's going to make them nice and stiff. Scrape the sides every once in a while because the sugar can collect on the sides. And be sure and scrape the bottom a little bit too when you're using your spatula, because it can clump there too. We want it mixed in thoroughly into your egg whites. It takes a little while, but you don't want to lose the integrity of your cake. So we're going to scrape the sides again. I'm going to turn the speed up a little bit higher now so that we want it nice and stiff now. We want nice stiff peaks when it's done. We're going to let that spin just a little bit. In the meantime, I'm going to sift my flour that has the baking powder in it. So that's ready. Let's see how our egg whites are doing. They still need to be stiffer. They can, while they're mixing right now, they're kind of a watery texture. So we're going to put it up higher so that it's okay to put it up higher now because all of the sugar is mixed in and it won't go flying out of the bowl. When you're putting your spatula in the egg whites, if you feel some resistance, then it's getting into the consistency that you want. You should feel some resistance when you're, and the peaks should stand up. We want the peaks to stand up nice and stiff. Not too stiff though. If you overbeat, it can ruin your cake too. So you don't want to overbeat it. So now I'm going to leave the whites that are still on the beater, because it's okay if you get it into your yolks. I have to switch my bottom plate for the small bowl. And we're going to now mix our egg yolks. And to the egg yolks, we're going to add 3 tablespoons of water and a teaspoon of vanilla. This is our teaspoon of vanilla. Now you'll notice that this is a very runny batter. That's okay. We're going to stiffen it up a little bit, and I'll show you how. Now, I'm going to take some of the egg whites, and put it in my yolk. Oh, I'd say about 3 or 4 good dollops should do it. So I have a special little whisk here that I use, but you can use one like this. And what we're going to do is we're going to whisk these together so that our yolks aren't quite so watery. They'll still be a little bit on the watery side, but that's all right. Then we're going to add it to our egg whites. And now we're going to sprinkle some of our flour that has the powder sugar or that has the baking powder mixed into it. We're just going to sprinkle some over the top. And blend it in. Don't blend too much. The more you beat it, the less it ruins the integrity of the cake. We want to keep air holes in it as much as possible. So what you're going to do is you're going to lift with your whisk. You want to lift it as you're folding. Just fold it enough to get it mixed in so that you don't see the white on top from the flour. Add some more and lift. Turn your bowl every once in a while so that you get all of your eggs and your flour mixed together. And keep lifting. Now it's disappeared again, so we'll add some more. Usually I add it in about fourths. I'd say 1/4 of the flour each time I add it. You want to keep lifting. You don't want to get any lumps. That's why we sifted our flour, so that it doesn't get lumpy and have a lump of flour in the middle of your cake. It doesn't taste very good. So I'm going to put this last bit of flour in. Just sprinkle it all over the top. And fold it in. Keep turning as you're folding. And you want to make sure you get, as you're folding, you'll see bits of white here and there, streaks of white. That's the flour not mixed in. You want to make sure it is mixed in, but don't overmix it if you can help it. Just mix it in so that it doesn't show anymore. And then we're ready to put it in our pan and into the oven. We're going to put it in the oven again at 325 Fahrenheit, 163 degrees centigrade. And that will be for 20 minutes. So now we're going to put it in our pan. Try not to break down the air bubbles if you can help it when you're putting it in the pan. You just want to shove it and not squish it. If you see a little bit of white as you're putting it in the pan, just stir it a little bit with your spatula. So you're going to spread it all about the bottom of the pan. And try to keep it the same height throughout the pan. So we've got it spread over the pan fairly evenly, and we're ready to put it in the oven. And we're going to put it in for 20 minutes. Okay, so let's see how our cake, oh, look at how nice that thing came up. Now, the way you test your cake to see if it's done is you press the top gently, and if it stays down, that means it's not done. It should pop right back up. That's why it's called sponge cake. And it's a beautiful golden color. Look at that. So now I'm going to get out a dish towel, make it a clean one, and we're going to sprinkle it with powdered sugar. We want a nice coating of powdered sugar so that the cake won't stick to it. I take a spatula and I loosen the sides all the way around. Okay, now I've got it loosened from the sides. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to get up and under on one side so I get under the wax paper that's on there. We want to just do that on both sides just so that the cake won't stick when we flip it over. So we're going to take 2 hot pads and flip it over. Voila! Now what we're going to do is we're going to get this wax paper off. Sometimes you have to help it a little bit with your spatula. Other times it just peels off nicely like it is right now. Peel it off. Now what we're going to do is we're going to roll it. Because we're going to make a jelly roll, we want it to have that form when it's done cooling. So while it's cooling, we're going to gently roll it into a jelly roll shape. And we'll let it cool for about 20-30 minutes. And while it's cooling, we can mix our whipped cream with a little bit of sugar, slice up some strawberries, and then we can fill it when it's through cooling. Hi, I'm Susan with BakeWithMom.com. Subscribe to my YouTube channel and you can learn to bake something new every Friday. Check out this video here and this one here. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. You know you want to learn how to bake. You want to bake these cookies because they're awesome. You want to bake that bread and this cake, so make sure you subscribe to my channel.